In this episode, we share the processes that insurance underwriters use to avoid paying out insurance claims. We pose the question, are these scams, tricks, and cheats? And you can decide. This is really scary stuff and information the insurance companies really do not want you to know about. So make sure you watch right through to the end so you don't miss any of this really important stuff.
We are John and Ellie, the Barefoot Doctors, sailing and travelling around the globe. Join us as we share the adventure and explore the beauty of the world. Because life is better barefoot.
Yeah, say for instance, our boys, we've got, grown-up boys that won't want to sleep together in a double bed, but we don't have enough cabins to give them their own bed, but they don't want to sleep in a double bed.
Yep.
So is there a way that from the guest cabin you can have almost like two single beds
That can be joined.
that can be joined?
If you want just to separate the mattress and have, like normally you have in the sailboat monohull, under the mattress, this is the mattress, under the mattress you have a plywood with the hinges, then you can lift like this.
Oh yeah.
Because when you are listed, you can sleep and you can put your shoulder somewhere,
Against it,
otherwise you fell down. This is not a problem, even because you can walk around in this side, so it's separated in the middle. Could be comfortable in any case.
I mean,
That is possible.
you don't want to affect the aesthetics because the cabins are beautiful and everything.
And to have this, now we have to think about how to secure, because of course we need to secure in the middle, no? In some way.
But there, it
This
only
side
comes
we
up.
can make some kind of fix on the wall, but we will find a way.
Yeah.
We can make a little bit higher here in the head and a little bit lower in the
legs. Yeah.
legs.
Oh yeah, well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
50 and 40 or 60 and 40.
Yeah, I think that would be a great solution.
Which is
Are you happy with that, huh?
I'm happy with that. Tick.
Okay, next.
And when you're fighting, you are going to sleep
Yeah.
this one up. As a punishment, she will lift up.
Okay, look, today we're very excited to have with us Jess Webster, who is our lawyer that's been working with us for the past 2 years to help us through our very stressful and difficult times trying to get an insurance payout. So welcome, Jess. We are honoured to have you on board and sharing your knowledge with all of our viewers.
Hello, Ellie. Hello, John. Always nice talking with you. Looks nice and warm where you are. It's cold and snowy up here.
And look, we've wanted to share with all of our viewers important information about insurance and the pitfalls and what to do. And we did think about using an insurance broker or an insurance agent, but of course that's like asking the wolf how to get the best outcomes. So a maritime lawyer like yourself is a far better source of information to work on behalf of the sailors. Now, obviously the advice we give here is general. Do you want to give the legal limitations of what advice we're giving here, please?
Yes, the disclaimer. What we're doing today is we're just having a general discussion about maritime law and about maritime insurance in particular. And it's not what you could consider specific legal advice that you or your viewers should rely upon. Rather, if they get into a marine insurance issue of their own, it'll be fact specific and the outcome will be fact specific. So if they find themselves in a difficult situation, they should always consider consulting with a maritime attorney.
And look, we were very lucky. We were recommended to come to you by a fellow sailor who'd had a good outcome supported through the process by you. So we're very grateful to him too.
Should a boat owner find themselves in peril, the first thing to attend to is the safety of the people aboard the vessel. And then after that, under your insurance policy, you have a duty to sue in labor to preserve the value of the vessel, which means you need to do what you can to save your vessel. And, how to deal with salvers or towers, the bottom line is you're expected to act reasonably. And in fact, the law imposes a duty that you're supposed to act like a reasonable, uninsured person. Now, if you're just aground without having compromise the integrity of your hull, you would probably want to try to arrange a tow and enter into a towing agreement. And if you were to make such an agreement, you would try to do what you could to evidence that being your agreement, maybe just a text message or an email. Beyond that, if you are in a situation where your boat's damaged, the watertight integrity is compromised, you might have to deal with a real salvage. And then in that instance, you might be looking at either doing a contract salvage, which is where you enter into a contract for somebody to come in and do what they can to salvage your vessel. Or sometimes people insist on what is called a pure salvage arrangement, in which they render assistance to your vessel and they are given an award based on whether or not the elements for pure salvage are satisfied and how successful they are in the effort. And your insurance has coverage for that. So, don't be too panicked, but do what you can to make the bargain you can, but preserve the value in the boat.
Okay, and we have been told that there's a difference if you throw your line and get towed by somebody else compared to if they give their lines to you and you use their lines to get towed away. They have more rights over you. Is that correct, or is that false information?
Well, John, I must confess that I haven't really researched that issue, and I haven't run across any cases that make distinctions based on who owns the line that's used to tow the vessel. If it's your line, maybe it looks more like a tow. If it's their line, maybe it looks more like a salvage. But the important distinction is whether you entered into a towing agreement, contract salvage, or just allowed somebody to perform pure salvage on your boat. And if you're in the situation and you have the time, you do what you can to evidence what your arrangement is so that your salver can't change their story later. What type of salvage arrangements or contracts might be faced with? Well, there's basically 3 buckets they can go into. One, you can have a towage agreement. And as your viewers probably know, you can enter into contracts with associations, something like Aquatic AAA, where they will provide towage services. The other is what they call contract salvage. And that's where you enter into a contract with a salvor to come and do what they can to salvage your boat. And sometimes they can be pretty one-sided and onerous in their terms. They can have very high labor rates, very high rental rates for vessels and equipment being used, but they know they have you over a barrel. If it's the only contract available, if it's necessary to save your boat, it's reasonable to take it. And the third type of contract or arrangement is what they call pure salvage. And pure salvage has 3 elements: that a vessel must be in a maritime peril, there must be a voluntary rendition of services, and there has to be success in whole or in part. And sometimes salvors will want you to enter into a written agreement that basically says, you're entering into a pure salvage arrangement with us. And they'll do that just to evidence that that's what the arrangement was. And if you're faced with a situation where you're given a take it or leave it contract and you have no other viable alternative, it would be reasonable to take what's offered and hopefully save some value in your vessel. So those are the 3 categories: towage agreements, contract salvage, or pure salvage.
And now, should we move on to how to get insurance in the first place and the sort of things you need to look for? As obviously a lot of people have found out, there are hidden clauses in the contracts that you don't realize are quite so critical and then end up meaning that the insurance company doesn't pay out.
That's right. The large print giveth and the small print taketh away. Right?
No. What you said there about hidden provisions, I don't know that that's quite fair or accurate, because generally what's in an insurance policy is all there. It's all there to be read. But the problem is too many owners just do not stop and read their whole policies. And with marine insurance, there's really no substitute for doing that because marine insurance tends to be pretty strict. Typically, marine insurance, you would get three kinds of marine insurance. You would have hull and machinery, then you would have protection and indemnity or liability insurance to protect you against liabilities arising from the vessel. And third, you'll generally always have pollution insurance because there are huge liabilities associated with pollution. And some are simply written better than others. One, there's the coverage provisions, which tell you what is covered under their insurance. Second, there are exclusions, and there'll be a whole section of exclusions that explain items that expressly are not covered by that insurance. And third, and this is what trips up a lot of people, is there are warranties. And in marine insurance, warranties are extremely important. They are affirmations or promises made by the insured as to how they are maintaining the vessel and where they will operate it and things of that nature that the underwriters rely upon. And so the law requires pretty strict adherence to those warranties. A breach of warranty will void your coverage that you've been paying for, even if the breach of warranty doesn't relate to the casualty or the loss. So it's imperative that yacht owners actually take the time to sit down and read through all the warranties so they're at least aware of what their duties are to keep their insurance in place.
So if anyone out there has an insurance policy with Selector, just check your own policy and see if you've also got this one, Clause 11, which has a requirement for you to weigh your fire extinguishers every single year. Do you have this recorded or not? Because if you don't, that could invalidate your insurance. Scary stuff, guys, isn't it? I find it's completely unreasonable, but that's in the contract and that's one of the warranties, and if you don't comply with that warranty, it completely voids your contract. And I do not think the general yachty out there is aware that these clauses, which are so seemingly irrelevant, carry such weight when you have a claim. So let's share with you some real life cases which show examples of this absolutely atrocious insurance behavior. Like somebody's had a lightning strike and so their $100,000 claim was completely voided because they hadn't serviced their fire extinguishers in the past 12 months. The second case is a friend of mine whose boat was on a commercial mooring, but during a storm the mooring line broke and it was wrecked on the reef. He was not paid out at all because he was not on board, and according to the insurance company, this is inadequate seamanship, and this really sends shivers up our spines because this is a ridiculous expectation for cruisers to always have somebody on board when you're cruising around the world as a couple. The third case was $150,000 worth of engine damage caused by jellyfish in the water inlets, and they were not paid out because of supposedly inadequate maintenance. Again, maintenance would not have protected against blocked water inlets due to jellyfish. And then the fourth case is where the payout offered by the insurance company was only 35% of the hull value, or $700,000 less than they should have paid out, because they claimed they could offset the salvage costs against the hull and machinery line.
If you are uncertain or you're uncomfortable with either the exclusions or the warranties, then that's time to consult with your marine insurance broker. You can also have a maritime attorney familiar with marine insurance review it. And it is much more economic to hire a little bit of time of an attorney on the front end to review your coverage and give you advice on it than it is to having to hire an attorney on the back end after you've got a problem with your insurance and you have an underwriter who's denying coverage for a loss that's really having a big effect on you.
We can test to that.
In contracts, there are often clauses that have general statements like using good seamanship. How does those different things work from the legal side?
Yes, warranties that are general and somewhat vague can be problematic, such as, always adhering to good seamanship or using due diligence to maintain your vessel in a seaworthy condition. But they are not altogether uncommon, and depending on the facts, may be relied upon by some underwriters to attempt to avoid coverage. But here again, that's an area where you would like to consult with your marine insurance broker. Example, in the instance that you described with your friend who was away from their vessel when a casualty occurred, it's very important that you convey to your insurance broker exactly how you're going to use your vessel. And, if there are going to be times when it's going to be unattended, moored someplace in a foreign land, that type of information needs to be provided to your broker so it can be provided to the underwriters. Generalized warranties can be so vague that they become ambiguous. And I did want to note that it's pretty much universal with insurance that any ambiguities in an insurance policy are always construed most favorably for the insured and against the insurer.
And is that the case both in the US and under English maritime law?
Yes, to my understanding, the English law with respect to ambiguities in contracts is the same, that they get construed against the drafter, against the insurer. The English law with respect to insurance tends to be more insurer favored, while the U.S. law, in my experience, has been more favorable to the insureds. The U.S. has developed a more robust body of law to protect insureds. The English, to their great credit, actually invented insurance, and it was in the context of marine insurance. And in order to assess the risk and to set the premium, the underwriters in London needed accurate information. And so from this grew a doctrine called umberame fide, Latin phrase for utmost good faith. One of the ways that this really comes up in yacht insurance has to do with the application process. And the information that you provide in the application, often in response to specific questions, actually becomes a part of the insurance policy, and it's part of the bargain. So when you apply for insurance, it is essential that you take that application very seriously and you make sure that every response is 100% accurate and complete. It's not a job to be delegated to someone else like your assistant.
While we always had the view that insurance was there to protect us and pay us out when we had a loss, the insurance perspective certainly seems to be they don't want to pay us out, and they will do absolutely anything they possibly can to avoid paying you out. So if you give them any avenue, like not fulfilling their warranty requirements or any reason, they will not pay out. From my perspective, I think insurance companies are not our friends.
Well, John, I think that's a bit strong. Not all underwriters will do just anything to avoid coverage. There are plenty of good marine insurance out there who respond very professionally to claims, but I would also agree that that's not always the case, and it's not regulated like terrestrial insurance is. And because of it, you get all kinds of players out there, good underwriters and downright bad underwriters. Underwriters are not in the business of paying more than they need to on settlement of claims. You'll ultimately find, some claims will get denied. And if you think that denial doesn't make sense or that it's wrongful or you're not being treated fairly, that's the time to maybe first talk with your marine insurance broker, see what their reactions are. But early on, as soon as you think you're being wrongfully denied on a claim, you need to talk to an attorney, and a experienced maritime attorney in particular, one that knows marine insurance and knows how to do insurance recovery work. At our firm, we do a lot of insurance recovery work. So if you have a claim denial, don't necessarily accept it. It's worthwhile getting legal advice as to whether that denial is justified.
With our past experience, if there's a clause in your insurance that says we revert to English law, what are the implications of that in terms of how does that differ from US law? This would be only general information because you're not a UK lawyer?
Well, generally, I would say there's nothing wrong with UK law. After all, that's where it all started. And the US maritime law is, for the most part, just borrowed from the English maritime law. We have developed probably a more robust body of law having to do with what we call insurance bad faith. And it's a body of law that has been developed to protect insureds and their reasonable expectations as to how their insurance claims are going to be dealt with by their insurers. And, the insurance bad faith laws, I would have to say, when underwriters and adjusters are just more disciplined and they're more reliable in their timeliness. And that's largely because if they fail to complete, they can be exposed to additional damages, including exemplary damages for engaging in what is characterized as insurance bad faith. As a general proposition, UK law to control your insuring agreement is just fine, but you just have to plan on the possible additional expense of going to London to litigate any claims that you think are wrongfully denied.
I mean, it's certainly quite dramatic how much the insurance companies in the US were motivated to pay out and get it finished in the 6-month period. Whereas under the English law, we've certainly seen there seems to be no concern of that from the UK-based insurance policies. In our experience.
Again, John, I would have to say your experience was exceptional, highly unusual. I've never actually seen the form of policy that you had before. I didn't think it was well written and not less than clear. And from our perspective, it had a number of ambiguities, nor have I ever seen an interpretation of a policy quite like you experienced. And usually on the declarations page, there will be a separate insured amount or liability limit for each category. So I would think that's extremely unusual. I've never seen a policy even written that way, where it was an aggregated single limit of both first-party property insurance and liability insurance. But, when in doubt, again, talk to your broker. By all means, ask the underwriters point blank,
It's kind of like, trying to make your way in the dark when you're trying to find insurance and then, heaven forbid, if you do have an accident and then all these things are coming at you that you haven't even considered before, it puts you in complete turmoil.
For, I would say, most recreational vessel owners, they just don't know what to expect. And I know here is a situation where, again, if you have a good marine insurance broker, hopefully they can be of assistance to you when a casualty occurs and get you in touch with the people you need to help you through the things that you will face. I know that in your experience, you didn't get much support, and I also know that one of the first things that you were faced with was the U.S. Coast Guard putting demands on you that you take adequate steps to respond to the pollution threat posed by your burning and sinking vessel. And this is very common. And every time you have a marine casualty like this, which poses basically any threat, you will be faced with the Coast Guard's putting demands on you that you advise to take over responsibility to respond and mitigate the pollution threat. If you have the time, you will get in touch with your broker, and hopefully they will get in touch with your underwriters. And with pollution underwriters in particular, they tend to have attorneys and other people on staff 24/7, 365. And if you have the opportunity, you contact your broker and turn it over to your underwriters to respond. For starters, you want to work with a good marine insurance broker in placing your insurance. You can do this by a combination of sources. You can use the internet, but I think most important would be to talk to others in the yachting industry, yacht brokers. You can also be talking with other yacht owners. And most importantly, it would be to speak with yacht owners that have actually had claims. Second, you have to be very careful in the application process. Make sure your broker knows how you will be using your yacht. Will you be aboard it all the time? Will there be periods where it's laid up? Will it be laid up in foreign ports? And then with the application itself, again, you need to be very careful to be 100% accurate and disclose fully, in response to questions, all the pertinent facts. And you can't afford to have inaccuracies or downright untruths that'll avoid your insurance when you need it. Then when the policy issues, you never accept just a declaration or a certification of insurance. Most states will require that the broker provide you with a complete copy of the policy. And if they don't, get it. And then when you get that policy, go and get a nice glass of red wine and find a comfortable chair by the fireplace and read through the whole policy, and paying particular attention to the coverage, the exclusions, and the warranties. And finally, when and if you should have a claim, you need to promptly notify anything that may become a claim to your insurance broker. And we're talking about both damage or loss of your vessel and also events that could result in liabilities down the road.
Look, thanks very much for your information and your time. It's very valuable, and we certainly appreciate all you've done for us.
Well, thank you, John and Ellie, for the opportunity to have this conversation. I do enjoy marine law and I enjoy marine insurance. It's rewarding to help insureds get paid for their claims after paying premiums for many years. And as to the two of you, it was a pleasure working with you. And I was fortunate in that it was a long road. It was convoluted, but you are a couple of very determined individuals, and you hung in there until we got the right result. And I'm very happy that you're satisfied with the way things turned out.
And I just a little bit worried you're going to get so much work coming up from all the yachties that are going to...
Better take holidays
You
now.
might be completely overrun, Jess.
Honestly, it'd be my sincere hope that you and your viewers never need your insurance. I think that we all feel that way about insurance. Or if you have a claim, that it gets promptly and fairly adjusted by your underwriters. But if you ever do encounter a situation where you don't feel like you're being treated fairly and your claim's denied or being lowballed, our firm would welcome the opportunity to take a look and help you if we can. Okay, and thanks very much. Safe travels to all of you.
I'd like to see you again, but not under those circumstances.
Okay.
All the best,
All
Jess.
the best. Thanks, Jess.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to be a part of an exciting way to save lives around the world, join our Patreon family and get up close and personal with us. And we'll see you in the next episode.